Okay guys, I'm making a little video to help you guys with this class test. Now, I have, for number 1, been given the points 3, 4, and 5, 8. And part A tells us to graph the points. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. So, 3, 4, and 5, 8. 3, 4 would be right there. 5, 8 would be right there. If I were to draw a line connecting those 2 points, you go like that, and sorry, this is not a straight line. That looks a little bit better, but should keep on going like that. Now, just from the looks of it, I should have a slope of up 2 over 1, and it should cross the y-axis at -2. So right away, I think that my slope is 2 and my y-intercept is -2, but I want you guys to check it. Part B asks for the equation of the line passing through these points in slope-intercept form. So we're going to check the slope. If we need slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b, we need to find the slope and the y-intercept. So 3, 4, and 5, 8. This is my x1 and my y1, x2 and y2. The slope m is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So y2 is 8 minus y1 being 4 divided by x2, which is 5, minus x1, which is 3. 8 minus 4 is 4. 5 minus 3 is 2. 4 over 2 is 2. Good. So that's what our m is. So I can rewrite my equation. It was y equals mx plus b, but in place of the m is 2. So it's y equals 2x plus b. Now I have to find my b. What I can do is pick one of the 2 points from before up here as my x and my y. I'm going to use 3, 4. So in place of my x, I have 3. In place of my y, I have 4. By plugging that in along with the m, I can solve for b. 2 times 3 simplifies to be 6. Subtract 6 from both sides. That's still b. 6 goes away on the right side, but 4 minus 6 is -2. M is 2 and b is -2, which is what I suspected from my graph. So plugging it all back into y equals mx plus b, my m is 2, my b is -2, and then the y and the x can change depending on what point we're talking about. So that is the answer for part B. Part C asks for the equation of the line in point-slope form. Point-slope form is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Now, m is the slope. We know that right away. It's 2. We found it right up here. Okay, so I brought it down here. So I still have y minus y1 and x minus x1. Now, y1 and x1, they are just the x and y coordinates of a point that this line passes through. Well, I know it passes through 3, 4, so I'm going to use 3 and 4 as my x and y. 3 was my x, 4 was my y, and I bring it all down. Y minus 4 equals 2, my slope, times x minus 3. And that is my answer. Easy. Part D As for the equation of the line that is parallel passing through 1, 2. So parallel, and it goes through point 1, 2. If I know that it has to be parallel, that's going to be the same slope. So my slope, m, is still 2. And I know it passes through this, so I'm going to plug that in for my point slope form also. I put 2 in for my m, right? For my y1, that is 2 also, and x1 is 1. Just that easy. Perpendicular for part E. But it also passes through 1, 2. Now, perpendicular. If my slope was 2, what I have to do to that is realize that that's like 2 over 1. Perpendicular is the opposite reciprocal. So what I do is I flip that to 1 over 2 and make it negative. That is my new slope. So in y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. My m is negative 1/2. Keep the x. My x1 is 1. Keep the y minus, and my y1 came from the 2. And all those same steps are repeated in number 2. I'll come back to it if I have time. Actually, I'm okay on time. I'm going to do number 2 also. So I know that number 2 passes through -4, -1, -4, and 6, 7. I'm going to insert my graph here. -1, -4 would be right here, and 6, 7 over 6 up 7 would be right there. Drawing a straight line is going to be a little tough, but that's straight enough. Looking at it, it looks like it's going to pass through -3, but it might be a little bit greater than, or it might be a little bit higher than the -3 for my y-intercept. So I'm going to have to figure that out. And it looks like my slope is up 11 and then over 7. So my slope, I think, is 11 over 7, and my y-intercept is about -3, somewhere around there. Now I'm going to do the same steps as I did before to solve. Part B asks for slope-intercept form. So y equals mx plus b. I know that I have to find my slope and my y-intercept. I always find my slope first. So -4, -1, -4 is the point, and 6, 7 is the other point. I have x1, y1, and x2, y2. My slope is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. y2 is 7, and I subtract y1, which is -4. x2 is 6, and I subtract my x1, which is -1. When I have a double negative, that's the same thing as adding. So it's really 7 plus 4 over 6 plus 1. 7 plus 4 is 11. 6 plus 1 is 7. So I was right. My slope is 11 over 7. I'm going to plug that back in to y equals mx plus b. My new slope, m, is 11 over 7. but I don't know my b, or my y-intercept, as I call it. So what I'm going to do is use one of my points. I'm going to use -1, -4. You can also use 6, 7. It really doesn't matter. -1 is going to be plugged in for x. -4 is going to be plugged in for y. Therefore, -1 times 11/7 is -11/7 plus b. Still have -4. Now, if I want to change -4 into a fraction with a denominator of 7, what I do is I take -4 and multiply it by 7/7. So -4 times 7 is -28/7, because you multiply the number times the top, and then I have -11/7 plus b. I'm going to add 11/7 to both sides. That will cancel this, and I say -28 plus 11 is -17/7. So that is my b. I found my m, and now I know my b. And now I can plug it into y equals mx plus b. My slope, 11/7, and my b is -17/7, so I don't have to make it a plus. I can just call it -17/7. And that is it. For part C, we ask for the equation in point-slope form. So, point-slope form is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. I know my slope has to be 11/7. And I know a point that it crosses through because it gave us a point. So let's use 6, 7. This would be my x1 and y1. And what x1 and y1 mean is it's the x and y from a point. It doesn't mean the same thing as like the first point like it did up here. It just means from the same point, x and y from the same point. So in this case, I have y minus y1, which would be 7, equals my slope of 11/7 times x minus my x1, which is 6. And that's it. Part D, parallel line crossing through 1, 2. So 1, 2, parallel. If it's parallel, I know my slope has to be the same, 11/7. I know a point that it crosses through, so I'll call this my x1 and my y1, and I'm just going to put it in point slope form. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Slope is 11/7. X minus x1, which is 1. And we have y minus y1, which is 2. And that's it. And then I'm going to do perpendicular right next to it. And that's also going through 1, 2. If my slope was 11/7, perpendicular, you have to flip it and make it negative. So it's going to be -7/11. The point will give me my x1 and y1. And just to check that I'm actually recording. Looks like it. Good, this is a long video. Okay, going back to it. So I'm going to plug it in point slope form also. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, where my slope is now -7 over 11, and my x is 1, so it's going to be x minus 1, and my y would be 2, or y1 would be 2. And that's it. Now, to go back and draw the line, I knew that it was going to cross through point 1, 2. So, for the parallel line, it's going to have the same slope as the original line, which would be up 11 over 7. So if I go up 11, I don't have enough room. So I'm going to go in over 7. I don't have enough room. It's going to be too high. I'm going to go the opposite. I'm going to go left 7 and then down 11. Seems about right. And that's going to be parallel if you use a straight edge. Then, with a perpendicular line, what we know is this goes through the same point, so start here, and the slope would be -7 over 11. So you go down 7,
Following students,
and then over 11 would be like right here. It's a little bit off the graph.
Kyle Paulson, Grace Dines, Oscar Seth, Lexi Thurston, Liam Thielen, Tanner Wright, Victoria Bowser, Maddie
It's going to look like that, and as you can see, it is perpendicular to both of those. Makes a 90-degree angle. I still have some time, so I'm going to do numbers 3 and 4 for you on the next video.